Yeah, 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 yeah.
Welcome to Stella's Meza. On this episode, I'm going to show you how to make the filling for samosa that can also be used as a side dish that you can eat with rice or spaghetti, but I'll explain that later to you. Now, what you will need is 1 pound lean beef, ground beef, or you can use 80% lean, 20% fat. And then over here, I have it on medium heat on a pan. I have added 1 diced red onion, thinly diced, and then I have added 1 teaspoon of garlic paste, and I've added 1 teaspoon of ginger paste. And then what I have here is half a jalapeno. What I did with this, I roasted it in the oven for 15 minutes, peeled the skin back, and then cut the middle of it, took the seeds out, deseeded it, that way it's not too hot. And then I went ahead and finely diced it. I'm going to throw that in there, okay? Now if you like your food hotter, you can go ahead and add a little bit more, or whatever your taste is, whatever you like, go ahead and do that. And I'm not adding too much because I have kids who also be eating this. I don't want it to be too hot for them. Okay, now over here I have 1/4 teaspoon salt that I'm going to add in there. Okay, and then I have a 1/4 teaspoon turmeric. Okay, that's that beautiful yellow spice. Now I start with turmeric because it has a strong flavor. You want it to cook down. Okay. Now our goal is trying to cook this water down. If you're trying to use this as a filling for samosas, because it's supposed to be dry. But if you're trying to use it as spaghetti, you don't let all the water evaporate. And then I'm going to add here a 1/4 teaspoon cardamom. Now this is a very flavorful dish. That's why I'm using a lot of spices in it to make it a nice and full, well-rounded flavor dish. Alright, and then I have here a 1/4 teaspoon coriander powder. And you add it in there. As you add it, you stir to make sure everything is nicely coated with those spices. And then over here I have a teaspoon of cinnamon, ground cinnamon. And if you could only smell it, smells so good. You can see the water starting to evaporate. Alright, and then over here I use a little bit of, it's called Dana Jira. I'll put it on the description in my at the bottom of the video, so just take a look and I'll show you also where you can find it. And then here 1 teaspoon of cumin. Okay, so I go ahead and give that a good mix, and you can see the water is evaporating. And you want this to be all the way dry. Now, when you finish cooking this, you're going to transfer it over to a bowl so it cools down. But at that point is when you add the cilantro. I have here half a bunch of chopped cilantro, finely chopped. And then I also have here half a cup of frozen peas. Okay, you can use them fresh shelled. And I'm going to add that at the end because these are soft and I don't want the cilantro to wilt and turn brown. Because this is the step 2 to this. We're still going to put it in the pastry for the samosa, and then we're going to deep fry them in some oil. And then I also don't want the peas to be overcooked, okay? You don't want them mushy. So I'm going to keep cooking this down. And then when you come back, I will show you the end product. Once you've cooked the water down, there's no more moisture left in there, and I've added the cilantro and the peas. So be right back with us. Welcome back. Right before the break, I was showing you how to make the beef or the filling that goes into the samosa. Now I went ahead after I'd already finished browning the meat and putting the spices in there, the onions, the garlic and the ginger paste. I went ahead and let it cool down and then added the peas and the cilantro. And this is what it looks like. Now this is just part of it. I've already used some to cook some samosas, okay? And then, now don't worry about the peas not being cooked here, because as you fry the samosa, it's going to cook in the oil. So don't worry about that, and I did that on purpose. Alright, and also in part 1 of this samosa video, I went ahead and made the dough, the pastry that we're going to fill with this, okay? So, I'm going to show what I'm using here is a scoop, like a cookie scoop, and I'm just going to put 1 teaspoonful in here. See that? And then I'm going to push it down a little, make sure it's nice and all the way to the end. You can kind of make it shimmy a little. Now this sharp end, I'm going to take it and tuck it in, kind of give it a nice little cradle in there. And then I'm going to take that paste. Now there's no pretty way to do this. You have to get your hands dirty, but it's for a good cause. So let's go ahead and do that. You take a little bit of that paste and then you apply to this end. It's going to come. It's going to be a fluff that's going to go over the samosa. Make sure you get all the ends and don't leave any spaces, because as you fry it, if there's spaces, the meat is going to fall out into the oil and you don't want that, okay? Alright, so I'm going to put a little bit on here as well. Okay, and then you take that flap and you pull, but don't break your dough. Pull till it's nice and tight and firm, and then you push it down and kind of flatten it a little. Okay, and then that's it. And then I've already gone ahead and made some. If you see, that's really, and this can store in there. You could make this ahead. If you have a party, you can go ahead and do this ahead of time, and then cover it with the cling foil, the cloth and cling foil, or cling foil. Put it in the refrigerator, and then when you're ready to cook, let it sit out on the counter for 30 minutes, and you can go ahead and fry. Now over here, I have some oil that's been heating up on medium heat, and I want to show you a trick to use to see if your oil is ready to fry. So I have a piece of dough, and you're going to drop it in here. And it should sit there for a little bit before it comes up. And if you see that, your oil is ready to fry your samosas. So I'm just going to take this out. And then I'm going to drop the samosas into the oil. Make sure you drop them away from you, okay? That way it doesn't splatter on you, because you could burn and hurt yourself. Just like that. Try not to crowd the pan too much. What I'm talking about. Okay, now you take your strainer and just toss them around in there. Make sure that all the sides get heated, get to touch the heated oil, and it cooks evenly. And you're looking for a nice golden brown color. And you see, because we seal the samosas nice and tight, there are no pieces of meat falling into the hot oil. And then just to let you know, you can do this. You can use ready-made pastry. I know. to make this. And the reason I'm telling you this is because it's people who do not have patience and do not want to go through the whole process of kneading it, the flour, and doing all that I've done. But I wanted to show you the authentic way of doing it. This is how my mother does it, so this is what I'm sharing with you. So you can use a pastry sheets that they use to make spring rolls. You can find them in the grocery store, and then you can cut them up into strips and then continue folding from there. But this is how I always make them, so this is what I'm showing you. Okay, so you let them cook, and I think that when you use a ready-made pastry, the samosa's appearance is smooth, and that's okay. I know it adds that visual appeal to it, but I also think that when you go through this process, and the dough is going to have, the pastry is going to have a little bit of bubbles in it, you know, like air bubbles that are trying to escape. And it adds more character to it. And there's nothing more, it's homemade. It's supposed to look homemade. Okay? So, you keep frying them. And I want to show you something as I let these fry, but I'll come and check back on them. I want to show you, I had some completed ones here. You see that? Take a look at that. That's what it's supposed to look like. So I'm going to listen to that. It's supposed to have a crunch. You hear that? Yep. And you break it apart and look at that. It's beautiful. You can see the ground beef, you can see the cilantro in there, the peas, this color. And I'm going to taste it and I'll tell you what it, because remember, when you cook food, the first thing to eat it is your eyes. You have to eat with your eyes. So it has to look good and then taste good. So we've seen the looking good part, so let's taste it. Oh. Oh. That is really good. Now, you can eat this, you can dip it. If you like to dip your stuff, you can dip it in sweet and sour sauce or barbecue sauce. I'm yet to come up with a recipe for the sauce that you can dip this in. And if I do, I will put it on one of my videos. Or you can drink it with just a cold glass of cola or any kind of drink you like. And this is fabulous for parties like cocktail parties or a side dish or a snack. Okay? So I hope you learned something new. And I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'm always happy to read back from you guys. So if you guys have any comments or you have any suggestions or requests, something you'd like to see me cook, be sure to send me an email and I'll try my very best to respond. And I want to let you know that I appreciate you for coming by weekly and checking out my recipes. And don't let the name intimidate you. I always say this. You will miss out on the good stuff if you do that. And join me next time as we take your taste buds on another culinary safari. Karibu.
De, 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 de.